Welcome in to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always from MMQB Sports Illustrated is Gilbert Manzano. Gilbert, are you all? Have you caught up? Have you gone through the whole setup of getting ready for the season? Are you in the best shape of your life? Are you ready to go for opening week?
I don't know, man. I started behind this off season, as you know. I became a father, so I added a little bit of weight here. What is it? The freshman 15, the new father 15 over here. But then, what's the best part about training camp, Victor? I get to be in the heat and walk around and sweat a little bit, gain some color, and then suddenly I'm back to my normal weight. So maybe that is a positive. And speaking of positive, Victor, there's a lot of positives on this episode. We're gonna break down the Rams' projected 53-man roster. You know what? Initial 53-man roster, because I hate when you just say, well, that's it. It's 53-man roster. The cuts are over with. No more tinkering. Yeah, right. As we know, covering the league is always tinkering with the roster, IR, waiving players, signing players, whatever. But another reason why we have a positivity here, we have a special guest, a grand guest, because he's going to break down the Rams' potential initial 53-man roster. So, Victor, if you have anything else to share, or
No,
do we just
all
bring in
I'll
our
say
grand?
is we have a great show for you guys, and we have a special guest. So we're gonna get right to it because we have a lot of info to get into, and we want to ask the special guest all about it. So
Yeah.
without having to wait any longer, Gilbert, go ahead and set it up and
Yeah. This is
intro
a
our
special
special guest.
guest, a former colleague, a good friend, and this guy's a Rams expert. He's there every day. Like, you can ask me about the third quarterback, sure, but what about the fourth defensive tackle? I don't know crap about that. Okay, so let's have my good friend from the OC Register Rams beat reporter Adam Grosbard to join the show. Adam, how you doing, sir?
Good to see you, Gilbert. Good to see you, Gilbert. Good to
How
see
you
you,
doing,
Vic.
sir?
I'm doing good, man. Probably getting a little bit more sleep than you, but but we know what that grind's like. So good luck this fall. The first season as a dad is unlike any other.
It's a grind, Adam. But you know what? Maybe I could jump into that chamber slash truck that Stafford had the other day. Is it called
Yeah,
Immortal or Immortal? Can you give me the name of that? I forgot already.
I think it's Immortal. I think I've already done enough for their annual marketing than their actual marketing team has, or at least Matthew Stafford has, anyways. That was pretty good for them, pretty good business for them, but I'm trying to stay out of any red light chambers.
Yeah, I was gonna say because maybe because you had the eagle eye and you spotted it and you had it on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And then the next day, I saw it at Chargers camp. I saw Immortal there, and I'm like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Is it because Adam put them on the map?" They probably thought, you know what, let's have our own camp tour and go around the entire California and go to the Cowboys or the Saints or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that was all the credit to you, Adam.
Well, they found me. Their PR team found me very quickly, so they seem to like it too. But
Okay, you're
no,
getting all the press releases now from
yeah,
Immortal.
exactly.
Okay. Well, speaking of the real story of why we're hyping them up and giving them more publicity is Stafford came out of that, or it took him a week to come out of the chamber, and then he's back to practicing. And I'm glad we have you on here on Thursday because the final practice before the preseason finale. I'm sure you're happy about that, the finale of the preseason. But for going through a whole week of full participation, I think, Adam, what did you see from Stafford for the week one?
So when he starts the first day on Monday, you're just kind of surprised he's there, right? Like, they've done nothing to indicate that he's going to practice this week. So he's there, and you're like, well, the original plan was he was only going to do individual drills. So let's see him in the receiver line. Okay, he can throw. He can throw the fade. Like, looks good. This will probably be it for today. And he's moving around. He's rolling around. Like, he looks like he can move around a little bit. It was great. All of a sudden, he's doing 11 on 11, which is not something we expected from him. And he's moving full speed, and he looks like Matthew Stafford. He's delivering balls on a corner route to Tutu Atwell that no other quarterback has been able to hit all camp, that only Stafford can do. Things like that, where you just see him. He's got the power behind the ball. He's got the spin on it still. He's still catching up to reading defenses and coverages and pass rush and stuff like that. But overall, it looks like Matthew Stafford, and we talked to him today, and he seemed to be pretty happy with the results so far this week.
Yeah, Adam, let me give you one more Stafford question before I have Victor give you some questions about the roster and what to expect this season. I did see that tweet from, or X, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why I keep getting confused with that.
It's still Twitter. It's still
Yeah, Twitter. It's a tweet to me. Okay,
your
fine.
style,
But I really
right?
tried to get it right, Adam.
No.
You know what I hate to get behind the scenes for journalism is like every time we mention X, you have to put in parentheses or like formerly known as Twitter, and I freaking hate doing that. Or maybe you guys don't have to,
No.
those who register.
I feel like I still forget and just say on Twitter or tweeted,
Okay.
or like I just can't. It's Twitter. Like I still type in twitter.com. I never will not, and it still works. So
It
here
still
I
pops
am.
up. Okay. See,
Yeah.
these are things that I care about, like, making sure I got the name right of Mordo and making sure I got the name of X or Twitter. Anyways, back to what people want to hear about with Stafford. The point is, I saw that video of Stafford throwing that touchdown pass to Devontae Adams, and Adams celebrated like, "Hey, no more passes from Jimmy G or Stetson Bennett. Let me throw up my hands here and have a good time for a preseason touchdown or training camp touchdown." And this I'll use this moment to talk about Devontae too, because I think maybe the Rams are really hyping up like, "Hey, we got Devontae," and I'm starting to feel like in fantasy football world, people are also buying into it.
Yeah.
So kind of a two-parter. One, I'm sure it's a good sign that Stafford went, 4 days in a row without having the back flare up or any discomfort. I'm sure that could happen. Who knows? And it's going to be a thing for the whole season, or maybe you disagree. But having him in camp, 2 weeks before the season to have that chemistry with Devontae, how crucial is that? And then what are you expecting from Devontae and that connection also on the other side of Puka Nacua for them being this trio here?
Yeah, so to touch on what you're getting at first, I asked Stafford about that, like if you're still managing back soreness today, and his answer, first was just to deny, and then he kind of allowed it, like, yeah, I am going to be managing this all year, just like I've managed a million different things over 17 years. That's life in the NFL. With a back, it's a little bit more concerning when you're managing something throughout the season, but it is what it is. He's Matthew Stafford. He's a warrior. If as long as he can go out on the field, he's going to. Um, as for Devontae, like that is definitely, I think, one of the bigger parts for Matthew getting back on the field. He knows every other receiver on this roster other than rookie tight end for Terrence Ferguson. But Devontae is a new guy. They started working together before OTAs, during OTAs, at minicamp, and that was definitely beneficial to them. And they've spent some time during training camp, Matthew watching on the sidelines and talking to Devontae and talking through routes that they're watching teammates running. And I think that's beneficial too. But Sean McVay said it today. There's no substitute for actually playing football, especially playing with someone else. So for him to get these reps for 2 weeks before they start game prep during for week one, it's a big deal. Devontae is a different type of receiver than they've really had. He is a true X. He is someone who can stretch the field. He's someone who can win on routes. Like it's a different thing. He's going to make a lot more choice routes than a lot of other receivers that Matthew has worked with. Cooper, of course, did a lot of those things, but just in a different role, a different skill set, a different type of athleticism. And so it's a big deal for Matthew to get these reps with him so that he can form like what was supposed to be when they signed him, this three-headed monster of Stafford, Nacua, and Adams. And it still has a lot of potential, but it's good news for the Rams that Stafford and Adams are getting 2-3 weeks of work before they face the Texans.
Just to kind of add to that too, Adam, do you expect him to be ready to go week one, or what are your expectations for Stafford?
At this rate, the fact that he was able to put together a full week of practice, I think he will be. That's just pure speculation. He said it himself. They're day to day, they're week to week. Neither Matthew nor Sean are trying to put a date on it at this point, but I think he's not out there working the way he's been working this week without an eye on week one.
That makes sense. Just kind of switching over, you talked about the receivers. I kind of want to move over to the running backs. In terms of Blake Corum, Kyron Williams, Jarquez Hunter. How do you think they'll use them? And then will Kyron get most of the load of the carries? Do you feel, or is this going to be and talking about fantasy, I know a lot of people are really interested about this right now. Do you see it being a three-headed backfield?
I still think Kyron is going to be the lead guy. That's why they paid him what they paid him. I do think without free agency looming, without the fear of Kyron, without the risk of Kyron leaving after this year, the Rams do have incentive to preserve him for the next couple of years, to take some of that workload and not work him 85 to 90% of the snaps per game, the way that they have the last two seasons. They need him in 2026 and 2027. So maybe we'll see a little bit more Corum. Maybe we'll see a little bit of Hunter. I think for Corum and Hunter, I could see more specific roles. I still think Corum will spell Kyron occasionally, give him a drive off here or there. But I think mainly where you'll see Corum is short yardage, trying to convert at the goal line like he did so successfully at Michigan. And then Hunter's your change of pace guy. I think Keaton Mitchell on the Ravens a couple years ago just come out and hit a home run to offset the 3 yards, 4 yards in a cloud of dust that Gus Edwards was given the Ravens that year. So I think that's kind of the role Hunter can have. He's very good at breaking tackles. And if he breaks one tackle and has got grass in front of him, he can be gone. He was so fast the other day, last week in the joint practice against the Saints. There were 3 or 4 where he was just gone before anyone could get a hand on him. And so if you have that as their change of pace, that kind of gives you some of that versatility that Sean McVay has been talking about bringing into the offense this year.
Yeah, because they've really last season they didn't have an explosive play in terms from from the running backs. I think the most was like a 22-yarder or something like that. It wasn't that big of a run, so they need
Right.
some of those runs. Just we're gonna be talking about the 53-man roster. You don't have to tell us where you're at, but in terms of is there a position group that you've kind of gone back and forth on whether or not the Rams are going to allocate a roster spot to, that you've thought about, that it's been kind of a struggle for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do on the offensive line, and then at the cornerback room. Offensive line, you got the 5 starters. Last year, they only kept 9 after cut down, but that was with Alec Jackson suspended. So really, they had 10 kind of in their pocket. So do they keep 10 this year? There's reason to argue for that. They did get a little bit of help this week, unfortunate as it was, but undrafted rookie Willie Lampkin sprained his PCL and his ankle. He's looking like an IR candidate, is what Sean was saying today. So that helps you sneak in an extra one around Bo Limmer and Justin Dedich on the inside. DJ Humphreys and Warren McClendon seem locked in as the reserve tackles behind the starting 5. And then the question starts to become, do you try to keep KT Leviston, who can play guard and tackle? Do you try to keep David Kessenbury as a veteran tackle, a little bit more experienced than McClendon? Or do you hope that those guys can kind of slip through to your practice squad? And so that's a big one. And then cornerback, there's just such a wide competition for what could only be one final roster spot at this point. You've got Darian Kendrick, you've got AJ Green, you've got Cam Lampkin, you've got Charles Woods, you've got Josh Wallace, Sean Jolly. So you're really looking at 6 guys competing for maybe 1 or 2 spots. Maybe Josh Wallace qualifies more as a safety, so that frees up a spot at corner where maybe you can go 6. It's going to be really, really tight. And there's a bunch of guys who probably will be fighting for that roster spot through the preseason finale against Cleveland.
I think you pretty much answered the question I was going to ask you next, and that was, who's fighting for that? Who's fighting for the? Who's on the bubble that needs to make an impression in that Browns game? But I think it's that cornerback position, as you just pointed out. So, and then in terms of the offensive line, I'm with you. Like, I had Willie Lampkin in, but now, like you said, and then the other guy that I had kind of on the bubble, and I guess this would be my next question here, just to kind of go off of that, is do you expect Alaric Jackson to start on IR? And if that's the case, do they keep, someone like David Kessenbury at that, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. So Alaric, Alaric won't get tested, I believe, until the beginning of September. So that's after cut down date. So Alaric's dealing with the blood clots in his, I don't know if we're clear exactly where, I think it's legs, but I'm not totally sure on that. He's dealing with blood clots. And so the test date for whether or not he's moved past some of the danger zone in terms of those things that could lead to internal bleeding with the right hit is in September. So they'll have to make their roster decision before they have total clarity on Alaric. They're moving forward. They seem pretty optimistic. Everything has been good so far, but those things are just kind of a yes or a no. It's not, can you play through whatever? No, it's a yes or a no. And so we'll see what happens when he tests. But by that point, you're hopefully got one or two of those, either Leviston or Kessenbury, to the practice squad, or kept one of them on the roster. But we'll see what they do at the spot.
Adam, this is the final question, and probably the biggest question for me to kind of figure out the 2025 Rams, because I could be positive, but I'm mostly negative because I really worry about the back end of the defense. And we were there together at the scrimmage, or the joint scrimmage against the Saints, and is that D line going to be enough to hold up the inside linebacker position, the shaky cornerback group? I like the safety rotation for the most part, but I'm glad that we have you on the show, because you're there daily, and at the joint practice, Tyler Davis popped out, and I'm like, okay, maybe it could be a one-time thing. And then you tweeted about it, and I'm like, okay, if Adam's talking about it, tweet, remember that? You're talking about it. That means that this could be a legit, foursome there with, Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner and Tyler Davis and Puna Ford. The thing for me, though, is like, do I criticize this front too much for the way they got gashed by Saquon Barkley without considering the fact that they were very young last year, and now you could be a pure pass rusher in terms of athleticism. You have that natural talent, but you got to polish your game when it comes to being a run stopper. And they added Puna Ford, but I want to see Fisk and I want to see Turner. Yeah, you're great, pass rushers, but can you stop the run? That's where you got to really make your money. Maybe Tyler Davis could help out with that. Obviously, you're set with Jared Verse and Byron Young, so it's a very, potent defensive front. But can the linebackers hold up? Should I buy stock into Nate Landman? Is Omar Speights going to take off in year two? These guys were not really, heralded players. And then the cornerback group, you don't really have a star cornerback, but you do have a solid safety rotation where you could have guys like Quentin Lake help you out in coverage. But to you, do you feel like that defensive front is enough to mask all the issues in the back end of the defense?
That's the bet the Rams are making for sure. That's why they invested way more on adding to the front than they did into reinforcing the back end. No moves at corner, no moves at safety during the offseason. Last time they made an addition to either room was just claiming Emmanuel Forbes off waivers in November. So I think that they have reason for optimism for improvement at linebacker. The linebacker play was just so bad last year after the Ernest Jones trade that there's got to be some improvement. There was a lot of improvement last year in their run defense from the time that Troy Reeder got hurt and Omar Speights started. Like the difference in EPA from week 1 through week 7 for week 8 through week 18 was a big deal. And I do think that you will see Omar taking a step. I think Landman has been a really good addition. They both had really big first couple weeks of camp. When the pads came on, you were hearing them and feeling them all over the field. And then you get past the first couple weeks of camp and guys are not really hitting as hard in practices anymore. They're kind of just waiting for the regular season at that point. And so you haven't really heard or felt them too much lately, but I do think that they represent a pretty big improvement over Omar as a rookie last year and just that group of Reeder and Roseboom that they started the year with. Cornerback is going to be a really big question, and that's where your point of relying on that front is really going to come home. Can Kobe Durant and Ahkello Witherspoon and Darius Williams stay with their guys for a couple seconds? Yeah, definitely. But what happens if the pass rush doesn't get home and receivers are given more time to work and quarterbacks can go through their progressions a little bit more fluidly? That's where the Rams secondary starts to really get in trouble. And so I do think it's going to be very reliant on that pass rush to get home. they've got the guys, they've got the depth too. If they really are able to rotate between Puna and Kobe and Fisk and Davis, all of a sudden, like you've got a really nasty middle of that line who's rotating constantly, and fresh bodies, fresh legs, fresh motors. That could become really, really nasty. Just flushing those quarterbacks out to Verse and Young on the outside.
Yeah, it's a very tricky situation and kind of gauge because you're very loaded with pass rushers and a lot of talent. And you like you mentioned, Adam, they are improving year to year. Maybe that's something I should take into account more. Hey, but I'm glad you broke it down here. You broke down the Matthew Stafford situation, the 53-man roster, the defense. So, Adam, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. I know you're busy this time of year, so I really appreciate all the time you've given us here in the inside.
Anytime, Gilberto.
Thank you, sir. And you said it right to Gilberto. It threw me off. Like, yes, you got it. You took Spanish in high school.
Un poquito.
Poquito. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the knowledge here.
Have a good one, Adam.
You guys.
Oh, threw too soon there.
My bad. My bad. Let me just fix all this real quick.
But yeah, that was really helpful, man. Especially this time of year when having somebody who, is there every day to break down the roster and a lot of people like to, they're gonna get 10 guys here and 5 guys there, and it's not easy. It's even like for beat reporters, it's tough to really figure out what's in the mind of the coaches and but the people who are there every day give the best assessment. So after listening to his answers, I feel better. And Victor, I know we kind of took a stab here for the 53-man roster, which is due on Tuesday as cutdown day. And I don't know if you want to change some picks or not, or do you feel comfortable?
Did.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay, let us know.
After what he said, I kind of did. So let's start off with and shout out to Brian Smith, who was on here before we hopped on, and he said, looking forward to this. However, if it turns into a Lampkin Dolak show, I'm out. So Brian, I just took out Lampkin from the 53-man roster after what Adam had to say. I might be keeping Dolak, and I'm going to explain why later on, but good to have you guys on. James Wheelock as well. And then we have a couple comments here. Daniel says, what up, perros? What's up, dog? And then Brett Gardner's joining us from What's Up, Balls. He said he's stopping in to like the video. He said, let's go Bolts and Vic. And
shout out,
Rams Fantasy Sleepers. I don't know about a sleeper, but someone to kind of keep an eye on is Terran Ferguson, and we'll see if they use more 12 personnel. Tyler Higbee is someone. I think the tight end spot is going to be they're going to have a lot more options, Gilbert, that because of Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, no, I think so too. So, it's good to see Ferguson back on the practice field. That's one question, Vic. I felt like I should have asked Adam, but it's I don't want to take too much of his time. But Ferguson being back in the field, but he just got back on the field, so I don't know how much you take away from that.
And
but
he's playing in this Browns game.
Okay, that's something to watch because the third preseason game is always a tough watch. But I want to see what Ferguson adds to his team. But you're right, when you have Puka Nacua and Devontae, you're good with the top heavy, but is that enough to not worry about the depth? And that's the tricky part. And how many receivers did you have, Victor? I forget.
Okay, so I have 6. I have Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Jordan Whittington, Conrado Monfils, Tutu Atwell, and Xavier Smith. I have 6.
That is tough because those are some good players there. So yeah. But then,
I wouldn't keep Tutu Atwell, but I mean, you paid him $10 million, so yeah. I mean, that's the only reason I think they're keeping him.
It seems like a lot because, like you mentioned, you have Puka and you have Devontae up top, and then you just drafted Terrence Ferguson to help you out when you have also Tyler Higbee, like we were talking about on Compas, it's kind of the revolution of the tight ends, and tight ends can now play like wide receivers. So do you look at it from that standpoint? It's Puka, Devontae, Tyler Higbee, and Terrence Ferguson. And then after that, it gets tough. We paid you, but maybe we just don't have the numbers to make it work. But they paid him too much, so I think he's safe. Exactly. I want to see more of Monfils, but he's a 7th round pick, Vic. So is he a lock? I don't know. That could be a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, and look, that was the other thing that I kind of wanted to ask Adam is I wanted to ask him about the whole Matthew Stafford, whether he answered, I guess, and he's right. I mean, if you're gonna have him, uh, be go this hard for this week, you're getting them prepared to be ready for week 1. So my question is, will Stenson Bennett require a roster spot here? Because he even tweeted about this, talking about X there. He said he did say that he's making it hard for Sean McVay to keep him on the 53-man roster. So that's someone that I put him in just because we don't know what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford. We don't know if he's going to be ready. And the other thing you run into, Gilbert, and I'll keep this quick, is what if you cut him and the Texans pick him up just to be able to pick up knowledge on what they're running, because this is what they do. Teams do this. You'll see someone get cut and then they get picked up by their first week opponent. That's just smart football.
Yeah, I know the Texans have Davis Mills, so how much are you really going to invest on a third quarterback option?
Yeah, but you just pick them up to the practice squad. You're
Yeah,
not really.
and it's easier now with the emergency quarterback situation now,
Yeah.
the third quarterback. So like I think for the Rams, they got to really gauge like who really needs a backup, like a number 2 guy. And if there's somebody, and then also you got to like kind of do a rankings, kind of like you're like a reporter like myself, or like, all right, if you had a number 2 quarterback options who are available, after cutdown day, how high is Stetson Bennett on that list? Like, there's probably some good options out there that might get cut ahead of him.
Right.
Like we're here locally, so we have a lot of eyes on Stetson, and he has been playing great. But there's probably some other options where he's maybe the 5th, 6th best option. And then at that point, maybe you want to risk it and waive him and maybe he comes back on your roster. I don't know. But having Stafford practice for a week, you have been protecting Jimmy G. He has not been playing in the preseason. And then, I don't know if you mentioned this, Victor, Stetson Bennett will not even play in the 3rd preseason. It's going to be dress or win.
Dress or win.
So that could be another reason, like they want to protect the guy, and it's going to be 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean that's why I went with the 3 quarterbacks. I just think you just don't want to take a chance right now with, especially until for sure that Matthew Stafford's ready to go. And that's the thing. You have to have a 53-man roster by Tuesday, and then you can start kind of tinkering with it. That's why we'll get to the rest of this. We'll go pretty fast here. In terms of the running backs, Gilbert, I have Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and I have to get this right. Arquez Hunter. Now, I know there's been a couple people, or I've seen people kind of push towards either Ronnie Rivers here if you're going to keep a 4th, or if it's going to be someone. What did I have on here? Let me find the names. I had a name on here as well,
Just to go off of that, Vic, while you're doing that, like I wonder how. Like maybe Ronnie Rivers is a guy who's on the chopping block.
Cody Schrader, the other running back, and so I'm like, are you gonna want to pay? Ronnie Rivers is great at picking up blitzes on 3rd down, and then also he's also good in special teams, and so.
But I feel like his value goes down a bit because Kyron is such a good pass protector. But you do need somebody for special teams. But that's the position where can you justify having 4 running backs when your trio is already pretty much set with Hunter? And hearing Adam rave about Hunter, I'm like, oh, I should probably pay attention to this guy a little more, because he was actually very good in that Saints scrimmage or joint practice. But that was against the number 2 defense, and it's hard for me to kind of like, okay, how much do I really value what I'm seeing here? But Adam was there every day saying like, this guy's explosive. I'm like, and then you mentioned the part about they don't really have a lot of explosive playmakers last year in terms of running back, and he provides that. He's definitely going to be in the rotation sack.
Oh yeah,
do you really need a 4th guy?
That's why I don't think you keep Rivers or Schroeder here. And I know a lot of people are saying to cut Rivers, but they did bring him back for a reason. And I know a lot of people don't think about this, but special teams, a lot of these dudes are going to make the team on special teams, and so that's part of it as well. So I think, and this is the next group, Gilbert, is the one where I was glad Adam talked about it, because I have Alaric Jackson starting on IR. So then I decided that kind of changed things for me. So as he said, the starting 5, you have You have Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, Rob Havenstein, and then I think it's going to be DJ Humphries starting at left tackle, and then you keep guys like he mentioned, Warren McClendon, Bo Limmer, Justin Diedich. And I think you keep both David Quisenberry if Alaric Jackson is on IR, it depends. You either keep David Quisenberry because he's on IR, because Alaric Jackson's on IR, and then the other guy he made me change was TK Levinson. So that's the other guy that can play both tackle and guard. So I have
Yeah.
10 guys on here, Gilbert.
Yeah. If you're gonna worry about depth, it's gonna be offensive line. Like offensive line is the one position where you could justify having an extra guy or two, and it's okay. It's probably gonna pay off in the long run. But the key here, or the trick is you don't know about Jackson. Is he going to be on IR or not? And like Adam mentioned, they want to decide in September, but cutdown day is Tuesday in August. So that's a dilemma right there. But I'm going to go off of what Sean McVay said, I think it was a week ago. And I think it was after the joint practice where he said Jackson is trending to being available week 1. I don't know how much has changed since that week. And I know we've all been focused on Stafford and he's been doing great. But I'm going to hold McVay to that where he is trending in the right direction because it's hard to put your starting left tackle who you paid with a contract extension to be out for 4 games. And then your quarterback's dealing with back problems. So you're going to have the second string left tackle and your second string option is not great. So to me, obviously you want to keep in mind health, like blood clots are not something to mess around with. But him saying that a week ago and then thinking about how much he'll lose if he's not there for a month. Like they play the Texans, who have a very good defensive front. You'll be fine against Tennessee. You will not be fine against Philadelphia. You'll be fine against the Colts. So if you're okay with going 2-2 potentially, then you put him on IR, keep a roster spot. But to me, it's a very difficult decision where I'm going to lean towards him being there.
And remember, Gilbert, he missed the first 2 games because of a suspension last year. So they know how to be without him for a couple games. So that's just something to keep in mind as well.
They went
moving over
0-2,
to the
right?
tight. Huh?
They were 0-2 in those games, I think.
Yeah.
They lost to Arizona.
Were they 0-2 now? Yes,
I think it was
they were.
Detroit
They lost
and
to the Lions, and then they got shredded by the Cardinals, right?
Yeah. So they also know what could happen if you don't have Jackson out there.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you're right there. Tight ends is easy. Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, and Terrence Ferguson. They'll keep 4 there.
That one, though, I do pause because do you really need a 4th guy? Like, is Davis Allen going to do something? Like, Parkinson, I know he's good for blocking, but he's also a specialist. I don't know. It's tough. But also,
these are guys, 3 guys they drafted, and Colby Parkinson they paid. So, I think that's the thing too.
Yeah,
and
then
Davis
Allen's been like a couple years drafted, and I don't know. But that's one. Like again, I'm trying to think of where you got to take away from, and I keep going to running back. I'm kind of thinking tight end because, like we mentioned, they're set with the Puka Nacua and Devontae being 1 and 2.
Yeah, we'll see. I had 4, but with the Rams, this is just this is not going to be the final roster because they're gonna make adjustments as they go. Just kind of going fast here. I know we both have to go. So, defensive line, we have Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Puna Ford, Tyler Davis, as you mentioned, and I have one more, Ty Hamilton. Just to have a good, interior defensive line there. Any thoughts on those 5?
Yeah, again, I'm trying to figure out where we could take a spot away just in case for keeping everybody in, especially wide receiver having 6 guys. It's just hard to justify, but we'll see. But you made the numbers work. I actually like the roster, Victor. Yeah. But yeah, especially, this is maybe would have been a better question for Adam. If Hamilton is showing improvement as a good run stopper, that's all I care about, the interior guys. If you're going to make this roster, you better know how to stop the run or you won't be a liability on the field. And obviously, you're not going to do that to Fisk or Kobe Turner. Puna was brought in for that. And Tyler Davis is just becoming more and more a potential breakout player for the Rams in 2025, where I think Chris Shula said that they view him as a 4th starter. That's high praise coming from your coach to say that. So if you're correct, I'm assuming Hamilton has shown enough in terms of the run defense because that's really what you got to focus on if you're coming off the bench.
Yeah, and especially if you decided to move on from some of those guys that were there. I mean,
Yeah,
you need to show that
better.
you can stop the run, like you said. Inside linebackers was a little hard for me here. Nate Landman is easy. Omar Spates, as we talked about, Chris Paul Jr. Those are the main three. The only reason I kept Troy Reader is for special teams. He hasn't practiced, so um, he might be an IR guy. But the thing is, with Troy Reader, there and I know that people, as Adam said, I mean they were terrible. His EPA from, as he said, from week 1 to week 7 was terrible. He should not be out there in games that matter.
Yeah.
He's more of a special teams guy. And then I just threw them a bone here and I decided to keep Sean Dolak as a special teams guy. But who knows what's going to happen there. I know that Brian Smith is not a fan of Sean Dolak. Neither, I don't think he's going to be a starter. You just need guys to be on special teams, and that's the reason he makes a team for me here.
Yeah, I'm fine with this one, and then especially after I heard Adam say, Nate Landman should help, and Omar Spates being in year 2, improving and growing should help too. That they can't be as bad as last year. Brian Smith saying Reader is a lock, I guess, for special teams, but do not have him out there to play inside linebacker unless you're really desperate. But yeah, special teams does matter, and I'm glad you're thinking about it, Vic.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I know a lot of people that a lot of these guys that make the team. You're like, why do they make? And you realize it's special teams. It's kind of like the offensive line. Not a lot of people pay attention to it, but you have to pay attention to special teams, especially like gunners, and it's not just the specialists. Outside linebackers: Gilbert, Jared Verse, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart, and Brennan Jackson. Those 4 are pretty much they're easy. You have a Josiah Stewart, it was a rookie. That's why I kind of wanted to ask Adam about where he had the problem, like, or what the struggle was for him on this roster, because a lot of it is pretty much set, Gilbert. Like, even if you like moving on to the safeties now, Cam Curl, Cam Kitchens, Quinn Lake, Jalen McCullough, right? Like, pretty. And then this is where I ran into an issue, just like he did. Akilo Witherspoon, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Emmanuel Forrest are your locks. And as he said, there's one. I went with Josh Wallace, but if you tell me it's Charles Woods, it's any of the other guys, I'm good with whoever you choose here, because as he said, there's like 6 dudes trying to get for one spot here. So I went with Josh Wallace. If Charles Woods makes it, if Jolly makes it, if any of the other dudes make it, I'm fine with it. But what your top 4 cornerbacks are going to be on this roster.
Yeah, and going back to the outside linebackers / edge rushers, for some teams 4 is it's thin. They need more help, but the Rams don't, because like we've talked about, like Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner know how to rush the passer. They're kind of hybrid. They're not totally edge rushers, but they know how to push the pocket, and you get that push from them. Where for them the problem is, can they grow as defense? Sorry, as run stoppers, but they're very talented pass rushers. So you could take away from that and then add more to the cornerback position. That's kind of a headache for this team, and that's why I'm thinking wide receiver. Like you're set at the top. Like you could maybe take one guy out, but it's tough to get it down to 5.
Like I said, I'm with you. I cut Tutu Atwell, but like I said, they paid him $10 million, and we're gonna sound like Tutu Atwell haters, but at the same time, like you mentioned, I mean, what are you using him for? Like, is he the guy you're gonna use for? I mean, you're getting the same thing out with Kanata Munfield, right? Yeah. Like, I just like, if he was an X receiver that can stretch the field, I get it, but I mean, they must love him. Decoy. Yeah, a decoy.
Like Tutu Atwell to me is just a decoy, and maybe that's a little harsh, but he's not a factor enough. And I get that, Matthew Stafford does not throw high volume his way, and maybe that's not his fault. But it seems like he's just a decoy to open up the other guys that are closer to the line of scrimmage. And you're and I'll say this right now, Victor. I think one of the why not? One of the bold predictions for this 53-man roster, I say they cut Tutu Atwell and just say, you know what? Our owner is Stan Kroenke, who makes a bunch of money. We can afford to eat the $11 million. Come on down, Munfield. you'll be the stretch guy. How about you? See more of you, Jordan Whittington, who I always see, making some plays. That's at least a bit practice, but it's going to be tough. And then I'm okay with your with the safeties for sure, and with the cornerbacks, it's kind of like you're hoping that Forbes does something. He was a former first round pick, and maybe there's some potential there. I know he's been dealing with some injuries. You're hoping that Akilo Witherspoon is going to give you some of that veteran presence again, where he's not going to be a star player, but he's going to be a reliable playmaker. I'm pretty much done with Darion Kendrick. The Kobe Durant, they're not going to be guys that we thought they're going to be. But when you have a couple guys that could maybe hold it down, and you mix in the safeties and then the pass rush, it might be okay. But I'm still concerned about it. But the way Adam broke it down, like they're betting big on that front, and maybe that could maybe solve all your problems there.
Yeah, and this is one of the cheapest units in the NFL, the defense for the Rams. And like Final Flash says, that no chance they cut Tutu. Like we said, they're
Yeah,
not going to.
We're just
And
not
like
fans of
we
Tutu.
know that Monfils is not that fast. We know that Tutu has better hands as well. We understand all that. But like
I've seen Munfield make more plays than Tutu Atwell the last 3 or 4 years. So that one I won't stand for. It's just I don't get why Tutu Atwell still with the Rams. He just, maybe because he was a second round pick, I expect more, but it's time to move on. They won't, I know, but I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there. Why not?
yeah, and then like I said, like see, there's people readers a lock for a practice. I'll take Dolak over him any day. I'm telling you, like people are like, people are over here like debating Dolak and Reader over here. Like I said, people forget about special teams. I don't understand why
Yeah.
people forget about special teams. But and Reader might be hurt. He hasn't practiced in a while, so he might be a IR candidate. So it'll be interesting to see. And I'm sorry that I keep bringing up special teams, but that's the way it works. A lot of people forget about special teams, and you need guys out there to cover on special teams. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
Daniel Calderon says Monfield for president. So
Yeah.
there's another
The
guy
guy
that
just makes plays, and sometimes don't stress too much about having a vertical threat. I know that's a big thing for teams. Like you got to have your slot guy, your X receiver, the big body 50-50 ball guy on the perimeter, and then your speed guy. Like everybody's caught up on that, but like you've been alluding to, Victor, they might kind of try something different here with all the tight ends that they have. Yeah, maybe you're more silent and sideline playmakers, but maybe you're a yak attack. Maybe your Puka Nakua could take, extend plays from a first down to 15, 20-yard explosive. They're not going to be 40-yard explosive plays, but that still helps you out. Same thing with Devontae Adams. Now you have Hunter coming out the backfield. Maybe, he can make some explosive plays that way through the running game. You got Ferguson. You got Tyler Higbee. I don't know. To me, they might be a little slow, but if you're scoring touchdowns, also at an efficient rate where you're not having your suspect linebacker group and your suspect cornerback rotation out there to hurt you. Like, what if you're scoring, or say you're 3-0 right away, and then you have to face all these top receivers against that cornerback group, and you're getting hurt and damaged. So to me, sometimes extending the game and playing the long game, it could help you out when you have some weaknesses. I know maybe that's a weak point of view, but to me, I'm not harping on the speed in terms of the wide receiver.
Yeah, and like we said, they don't look for speed when it comes to the Rams. They go for players that can make plays, and they're certain they know what kind of players they like. And so, lastly, here the specialists are easy too. Josh Carty, Ethan Allen, Alex Ward, the long snapper there, Gilbert, and then one final point I want to make. After the cut downs and everybody gets to switch numbers, I kind of want to see Jarquez Hunter switch numbers. That 35, he just looks too bulky with it. I know it's just
The
a me
fullback?
thing. This is just a me thing here, Gilbert. I would like to hit for him to use like a two, maybe a single digit or something. It just looks, that 35 looks weird on him as an explosive guy, but it doesn't
Hey,
matter. This is just a me thing here.
the way Adam talked about him being so explosive, I'm with you now. If you're going to be that damn fast and be a single digit running back, but if you're like in the 30s, you're more of a power back. And
That's
I'm
a
not saying he's
fullback
not.
number. I'm sorry, or a
Yeah,
linebacker.
yeah. And I know, Kyron and Blake they're, I forget, they're in the 20s, right? Or Kyron's 23, and I
Yeah,
forget Blake
22.
22. I forget Blake.
Yep. Yep.
Weird. But yes, yeah, maybe don't underestimate the fact that you have a power or a home run hitter in Hunter. I know he's not a pass catcher, but maybe in the running game it could really help out.
Yeah. All right, Gilbert, that's the 53-man roster. We'll see what happens on Tuesday when the cutdowns happen. Like I said, this is not even Tuesday. That's not going to be the final roster you see before the start of the season, because they'll go and try to get some other guys from other teams. So that is just what they're going to end up at, what they need to get to 53 on Tuesday. Our next show, Gilbert, is on Tuesday. We'll be reacting
Yeah.
to the 53-man roster on Tuesday. So keep it locked with us. I hope you enjoyed the Adam Grosbard interview. We will be putting it back on here as its own thing. So if you missed it, make sure you check it out. He gave us a bunch of nuggets there. So make sure you like and subscribe. If you know, there's some new names like Nathan and Final Flash that we haven't seen
Yeah.
before. So make sure you check it out, like and subscribe. We really enjoyed this. This was really awesome, Gilbert. Just seeing Brian Smith to get the chat started. Daniel Calderon, as always. I think he's been our day one guy on here since we started the podcast. So it's awesome to see people, and as well as James Wheelock. So shout out to James Wheelock as well. He's always in our comments giving us feedback. So that's awesome to see everybody on here. Oh, JK47 as well.
JK47, glad you're there, and and welcome to all the new names here. Maybe I have a bad memory, but there's some names I don't recognize. But if you are new here, always feel free to disagree and let me know. Like, oh yeah, Monfield is not better than Tutu Atwell. I love that. It creates more dialogue here, and I want to keep it real for you guys. And I'm just gonna always speak my truth here. And then if the comments are respectful, we got no problem. I'm always willing to have a debate. I also don't act like a know-it-all. That's why we have Adam Grosbard come on to break it down. He's there every day. Those are people that I trust, people who are there every day covering the team on a daily basis. So, hey, that's pretty much the rules. Be respectful, disagree, have fun, enjoy football, and enjoy the conversation. So I really appreciate the new names and the supporters from day one. But shout out to Brian, Nathan, hey, Willie. What's up to you?
Willie?
Yeah, Final Flash, JK47. What else? I saw Daniel Calderon, Nathan. So a lot of good names here. I think to the top, James. So
Brett,
also familiar
Brett
names. Daniel, Brett. Look at all these names. I love it. So I know it's football season. It's in the air. People are excited, and I love all this engagement here in the comments, Vic.
Yep. All right, Gilbert. That's it. That's our show for today. Let us know what you guys think in the comments, like I said, and we'll be back on Tuesday. Can't wait to be back. It's football season. We're almost there. One more game. Let us know what your thoughts are on the Browns game, and then we'll be back on Tuesday to break the roster down for you guys. And can't wait to be back on Tuesday, Gilbert.
Yeah, we'll be back Tuesday. But if you're watching this after the live episode, yes, hit the like. Brian Smith is right on that. But drop a comment too. We are always looking at the comments and anything you want us to improve on the show or anything you want to talk about for the next episode, let us know in the comments and we'll make a note of it. And like Victor mentioned, we will put up the solo video of the interview with Adam Grosbard maybe later tonight or early tomorrow. We'll try to get up very quickly. If not, just rewind here on the live version. He was, again, great, knowledgeable, good insight. And then obviously, hopefully you enjoyed Victor's 53-man roster projections. But yeah, maybe one day we could do that, Daniel. He says, let us call in. So also shout out to the audio people. I'm always seeing the downloads on audio, and I know we're kind of more of a visual show here on YouTube, but I don't want to forget about people who are driving, listening to us. So shout out to you. I know it's harder to comment from the audio point of view, but I see the downloads, and that's pretty awesome to see too. But it's time to get going. Enjoy the third preseason game with Dresser win in Cleveland. I don't know why the hell they're going to Cleveland, but whatever. Preseason game number 3, the finale, and then it's going to be week 1 against the Houston Texans. But it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.